Hello, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Jenna Azate, and today we're going to do our culinary passport to Italy. I'm joined by my colleagues.
Miles Sturgis, Associate Director for Education Abroad.
My name is Jeff Nelson, and I am an Education Abroad Specialist.
Awesome. So today we're going to make a recipe that I learned how to make when I was teaching abroad in Italy. I actually had the chance to study abroad as an Ohio State student. I went on the Lecce program to do some intensive language study in Italian. While I was there, I actually got to take a few cooking classes, and this is actually an apron from that class. So I do have a little bit of Italian cooking background, though I am not personally Italian. And after I graduated, I actually went back to Italy to teach English to high school students. And in both times I went, I had the chance to stay with a host family. One of the greatest things I think my host family gave me was one of these recipe books. It just has a bunch of blank pages in it. My host mom said, "Why don't you take this, stand next to me while I cook, and you can learn some more Italian recipes." So the one we're going to make today is the torta di mele, apple cake. I'm sure you can see here, it's a little bit messy and it wasn't perfect. If you ever tried to cook beside somebody who doesn't speak the same language as you and doesn't use the same measuring units as you, things do get a little bit tough. You probably want to preheat your oven at this point. My recipe says 180 degrees Celsius for 45 minutes. That's about 350 degrees. I ended up putting my oven just a little bit higher at 360. So we'll go ahead and begin. We're going to take 3 eggs and we're going to put them right here into our mixer, as well as 120 grams of sugar. This is where things got tricky for me when I was cooking in Italy, because at home, I've never really done recipes where you measure by weight. For those of you who might be measuring with a measuring cup at home, it's somewhere between a half cup and 2/3 of a cup. So we're going to add that into the mixer, in addition to just a pinch of salt. I always pour that into your hand first, plop it right in. Turn on our mixer. So next, you're going to want to zest 1 lemon directly into the mixture. I don't have any fancy utensils. I actually just use the fine side of a cheese grater. Right in. So I guess one thing to note about Italian cooking, I think people, at least a misconception in the United States, is that Italian cooking is really fancy and often complicated. But the Italians, I mean, perhaps if you don't have as many cooking skills, like some of these recipes in Italian would seem very complicated. But it's more about the fresh ingredients that you use. It's more about making things from scratch, making things slowly, buying less pre-made things from the store. I think it's what that way in a lot of countries besides Italy. But I found that to be starkly different than what we do here in the United States. They don't do the TV dinners, nothing frozen. They're often going down to the market every single day to get their produce, and then cooking from scratch every single day. One of the joys I experienced while living with our host family, it was they would cook 3 meals a day for me every single day for a month. Occasionally I'd go out to eat, but really no incentive to go to a restaurant when your host mom or host dad is making you like the most amazing meal you've ever had. And it would always be simple, nothing crazy.
Jenna, when you were studying abroad, and then you said you were teaching abroad later, was it in, what cities were you in? Were you in the same city each time? Did you have different host families? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, so I was actually in starkly different parts of the country. So Lecce, Italy looks like a boot. And Lecce is located in the heel of the boot, like very much in the southern part. I was there over the summer and it was terribly hot, over 100 degrees every single day. But you really get that like strong Mediterranean vibe there in Lecce. When I was teaching, I was way, way, way up north, almost in Switzerland, just about an hour by train from Milan, in a town called Iseo. If you're familiar with the Italian lakes, Iseo is right on Lake Iseo.
Okay. And I bet that the cuisine from those different regions also varied.
Very much. You'll find that every region in Italy has its own regional cuisines, and they're very proud of those. And they make them well. So, you know, pesto is really big in Genoa, but not that pesto is bad anywhere else, but like Genoa does it the best.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. So once you've got this mixed up a little bit, you've kind of got this eggy sugar mixture. So another interesting thing about baking in Italy was that the ingredients aren't quite the same. So one thing that this recipe calls for is actually an 8-gram packet of vanilla baking powder, which here in the United States, I've never seen before. No. So usually at this point in the recipe, I will just take my vanilla extracts, and I don't know about you guys, I always eyeball it. I like a lot of vanilla, helps flavor the cake a little bit.
Wow.
So that's probably like at least a tablespoon.
Yeah.
I never measure vanilla.
I'm gonna let you guys be the judge of that later. So I'm gonna give that a quick mix, mixed up with the eggs. And that's good. Next, we're gonna wanna sift in about 150 grams of flour. I just use all-purpose flour. I have it measured out right here. Again, 150 grams is about 1.5 cups. So gotta multitask a little bit. So while you've got your mixer going, tap it in to your sifter. This helps get all the clumpier parts of the flour out, helps give your cake a better consistency. I hope you can't see how much flour I'm actually tossing on the floor right now.
You know, when I think about Italy, I think about Milan or Rome or Florence, Venice. But you went to 2 locations that I really haven't heard much about. You know, were they, you know, smaller cities, and, you know, what was it like being in maybe a not as super well-known place as some of the other cities?
You know, I really loved being in some of the lesser known areas of Italy. Like Lecce, for example, is actually a really big vacation spot for Italians, but people outside of Italy probably wouldn't ever go there. Don't really have a reason to. But again, in these like lesser known places, you get less of that touristy feel, and I thought, well, an experience that felt more authentic to Italian culture for me. Like staying with a family, living life every day, going to school with their children and teaching classes was much more meaningful to me than, you know, maybe going to Rome and just seeing the Trevi Fountain. Actually got a taste of how Italians actually live their lives versus how tourists come and live their lives in somebody else's city.
How did you decide on those 2 locations?
So when I was studying abroad, I really wanted a language program, and I really wanted to go over the summer. This was actually during my freshman year. I started exploring things. I guess let me back up a little bit. So I started at Ohio State as a chemistry and biology double major. I needed to fulfill a language requirement. I had taken Spanish in high school. I wanted to take Spanish again, but all the classes were full. So on a whim, I took Italian 1. Just so I could, you know, get going on my coursework there. I loved it so much. It, in fact, was the only class I liked my entire first semester. And then so I went on and took Italian 1102. And again, the only class I liked the entire time. So I was feeling a little lost in my major. I was planning to be a pharmacist. You see where this is going. And so I was like, you know, maybe studying abroad and following this interest might give me some clarity. So, you know, Lecce is one of the great language programs that Ohio State does offer. It was a great 8-week opportunity, so I was still able to take courses during Maymester, have my global experience over the summer, and then transition right back into Ohio State in the fall. there are other language programs available, but they tend to be at other times. This one offered during the summer just worked really well for me, and I was open to it. I had actually been to Italy once before studying abroad as well, but never to Lecce. So I was looking for a new experience.
Yeah, sure.
Before I forget, I put that tablespoon of baking powder in here as well. 1 tablespoon is about 8 grams of baking powder. So after that, you're going to want to add in about 100 milliliters of whole milk. It's important to have whole milk, not skim milk. You really need the fat in here because the batter itself doesn't have any other fat in it. So this helps keep it nice and moist. Add that in. And at this point, I'll show you guys in just a second. The batter starts looking pretty reminiscent of like pancake batter. It's pretty delicious. And smell it. You can smell the lemon zest. Our batter is complete. We are going to prepare our pan. I just have either an 8 or 9 inch round pan here. Either give it a quick wipe with some butter or some spray. I'm going to do spray in my case. And then you're going to want to coat the inside with a little bit of sugar. And then you're going to want to like shake it around the pan. Make sure it coats the entire bottom around the edges of the pan too. This will help it come out when you're done baking. Also adds just a hint of sweetness.
Yeah, I've seen people prepare cake tins with flour, but I've not seen them prepare it with sugar. I kind of like that.
What I love about this cake is it's not super sweet. It's not going to be like your traditional American sweet cake. It pairs really well with, you know, a cup of coffee or traditionally Italian, an espresso. So I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so this cake is perfect for me, sweetened mostly by apples and a little bit of sugar. All right, so we're gonna set that pan aside. Next, you're gonna want to take your apples. You're gonna need like either 4 large or 6 small. Today we have a mixture of Granny Smith's, Pink Lady, and Honey Crisp. You can really use whatever you have at home. Any apple will do. This cake does not discriminate. So you're going to want to take 3/4 of your apples and chop them up kind of into these fine chunks.
And are those peeled?
Yeah, yep, they're going to be peeled first, then chopped. This takes a decent amount of time, so you can actually prepare your apples before you prepare your batter, but you will want to add a little bit of lemon juice to keep them from browning too much. So yeah, 3/4 chopped, and then the last quarter you're going to just keep aside for like fine slices. This is what's going to decorate the top of your cake. So at this point, we're going to combine our apples just like that, and give it a quick stir. You should get something that looks pretty much like that. Okay.
Now, Jenna, you also mentioned when you were in Italy that it was very common to go to the market regularly, daily in some cases. So I assume that also means, you know, local, fresh produce and fruits and vegetables. So my question for you, where'd you get those apples?
Where did I get these apples? So I do not have access to Italian apples or Italian lemons or anything of that nature. But in true Italian fashion, again, the cooking is not anything complicated or overly ornate, but the flavors do come from using local and fresh ingredients. I had fully intended to go apple picking here in Central Ohio, but I did not have a chance. So I went to the Wild Kroger apple section and picked up some Ohio apples there.
Yeah, but still Ohio. They're still from Ohio. It still counts.
Yep. All right, so I've got my prepared pan, and I've got my batter covered apples, and we're just going to dump them right in. Show that a little bit. And then the fun part comes next. You get to decorate your cake with your remaining apple slices. So all the ones we have set aside here, you can really decorate it however you want. I love to do them kind of in a fan shape. I'll start outward and spiral them kind of inward.
So what was it like for you learning and practicing your Italian in a very kind of like immersive, intensive experience?
You know, if you're going to learn a language, the fastest way you're going to pick it up is if you are in that type of environment. Just having that constant input of, you know, language, everything you see, everything you hear on TV. Again, if you stay with a host family or you're staying in a dorm with Italian students, you know, you find people to talk to. And you find that you actually pick up Italian really quickly, any language, really. That being said, I did find it like very mentally exhausting, not in a bad way, but it was, you know, when your brain has that much input all day long, every day, you know, you're maybe sitting in an intensive Italian course, everything you do in everyday life has to be in another language. I was pretty tired at the end of every day. When I was in Iseo and teaching English, luckily I got to teach my classes in English because that's what was expected. And my host family actually, you know, as part of the deal of staying with them, it was at no cost to me, but they did request that I practice English with them. So I did get a little bit of, I guess, brain relief there because they really wanted to speak in English, though I would say that does hinder your ability to learn the local language faster. But it can be a nice trade-off to go back and forth to learn somebody else's language and then teach them your own.
Sometimes that can be just as exhausting though, even if your brain's switching back and forth between two different languages instead of just being fully immersed in one. Yeah. And I can see it be challenging in either situation for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually your brain does get used to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I always find that when I was in those situations, I would start dreaming in Italian, which was really bizarre to me because I was like, I didn't think I knew that much, or I was that good at the language or that proficient. And then all of a sudden I would like wake up and I was like, the whole dream was in Italian. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so our cake is fully decorated here. Last thing you want to do is come back and take a little bit of sugar and sprinkle it on top. This should help give the apples kind of a darker caramelized color as they bake in the oven. No specific measurement here. It's just kind of however much you want. If you like it sweeter, add more sugar. And then you just want to dot the top with a little bit of butter. Just teeny tiny pieces. Again, this helps with the browning and caramelization on top.
Looks beautiful.
Thank you. I have to say, like being, you know, learning from a local Italian how to cook these things was just my favorite experience. I just found that Italian cooking was nothing like what I thought it was going to be, at least in the United States. Like if you go to Olive Garden, if you send an Italian there, they're probably going to turn their nose up. It is not the same cuisine as what you'd find there as you would in Italy. Like spaghetti and meatballs, like the meatballs on top of the spaghetti, again, another common misconception. Italians don't do that. If we're going for a quick Italian food lesson, they actually split their plates into courses. So they're going to have pasta as their first course, and then maybe a meat or a protein of some sort as a second course. Before that, start with a soup or salad. I digress. So we have our lovely, lovely cake here. We're going to pop into the oven. It's going to take about 45 minutes. The way you know it's done is there's nothing runny left in it. You can take, you know, a toothpick and poke it through the middle just to make sure you don't have any raw batter. But just, it needs to be in there long enough to make sure your apples are nice and softened and caramelized on top.
So Jenny, you mentioned that you had, been in Italy for 2 experiences, your study abroad and your teaching abroad. And I think that's really important to keep in mind that students and graduates, right, they use their study abroad in their futures, right? They do use it in order to pursue other things, whether that be here domestically or internationally. So would you say that your study abroad kind of led to a career in the field? Like what brought you where you are? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always had an interest in travel, which is why I've always been drawn to coming back to Ohio State for education abroad. I had 2 fabulous experiences, and I really hope that I can help another student find their meaningful global experience too. Even if you don't want to go into something that's directly global, like learning a language and teaching it, going into like an education abroad field, there are other things that you can do and other skills that you learn. Like I would say I came out of both experiences just so much more confident in my ability to travel and my ability to speak with people that I didn't know. It doesn't have to be, directly applicable either. I think learning another language helps you be a better communicator in your native language. Yeah, I would say that in my case, it led to, a global career in education abroad, but by no means do you have to have that sort of direct experience. You're always going to encounter people from other cultures, people who speak differently than you. So you'll always be able to apply at least, some aspects of your experience into your experiences moving forward.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, those skills are definitely transferable. Yeah.
Yeah, so, a lot of our students who participate in Ohio State education abroad programs, they'll stay in residence halls or a hotel on their study abroad program. But so for, some of our intensive language programs, you have the option of doing a homestay like you did. So what was it like actually getting the chance to live with an Italian family?
Oh, wow. It's a big question. It's really cool because I think some people feel a little awkward at first. I know I definitely did. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going into like strangers are letting me into their house and I'm going to live here for like a couple months. And like, it's just like a new roommate, maybe, at Ohio State, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to like these people, if I'm going to get along. And like, this is where I have to live. In both cases, I've stayed with 2 different host families. I've just been shown radical hospitality. They, give you a space to sleep and do your homework or whatever you need. And in my case, they cooked all my meals for me every day I was there, unless I said, hey, I'm not going to be home. And you end up just, making great connections. I think it takes a special person to open up their home to a stranger from a different country. And they end up just being really awesome hosts and great connections later on. I do have one funny story, I guess. When I was studying in Lecce, I had just completed Italian 1101 and 1102, which if you've taken those courses, that's not like super proficient in a language. I had gone into the bathroom to take a shower, and at the bottom of the shower, I see this tiny scorpion, and I freak out because I'm like, I've lived in Ohio almost all my life, and I've never seen a scorpion before. And like, what do I do? I'm like trying to tell my host family, I'm just panicked, and they're like, what's wrong? They're speaking to me in Italian. I run over, I grab my dictionary, I'm flipping through for the word for scorpion, and I was just like, this one, bathroom, scorpion. So we had a good laugh after that, though I was very panicked in the moment.
Yeah.
The scorpion was dead, by the way. It was dead. Oh. So
I never would have guessed there'd be scorpions in Italy. It just never crossed my mind as an Italian critter.
Southern Italy, yeah.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Or the other time, this host family also had friends that would come over. Their friends had young kids. And sometimes I found myself like, trying to listen in to like my host family talk with their friends, but it's kind of rapid fire Italian. I'm not catching a lot. But they would bring their like young kid over and the kid would be plopped in front of TV. In one case, the kid was watching SpongeBob in Italian, which from my childhood, I knew pretty well. So I was following along, getting to learn a little bit more Italian at my own pace, which happened to be at the pace of a child. So it's a very humbling experience sometimes.
There's no shame in that.
What did your daily life look like in Lecce with classes and kind of exploring the area?
Yeah, Lecce is a really great program because you're really set up to have, a lot of structure in your day, but you're also given a little bit of flexibility to explore the local area. So Monday through Friday, I would take intensive Italian courses, both in the morning and in the afternoon. Just a couple hours. All my classmates were not from the United States. Some were Ohio State students, some were from other universities in the US. And then I also met people from other countries. They had people from Canada and Australia and China and Taiwan. And, you got to meet a pretty good global bunch. I think everybody's common language there was English. So it did make it a little bit easier to communicate, at least for me. So after classes, you would get snacks and lunch. I loved getting my little afternoon nap time. Usually you go home, you have lunch, you take your nap, maybe have an espresso. I drank a lot of espresso and I ate a lot of gelato. And then sometimes in the evenings, you had the option of certain classes to take. So for the first 4 weeks, I took an art class, which was on stone carving, which is a local form of art there. In the second 4 weeks, I took a cooking course, just learning a little bit of Italian cuisine. Then on the weekends, sometimes my host family would take me with them to different places in the region. Sometimes they had excursions for us, going to local beaches, learning about historical sites. Really never a dull moment. All right, so here we are about 45 minutes later. Let's take a look at our cake. And it is looking awesome. So we've got fully baked apples, and just a little bit golden on the edge here. And then what you can do is you can take a toothpick or a wooden skewer, just kind of tap it through the middle, make sure nothing goopy comes out, and that's how you'll know it's done. So in true Italian fashion, with your cake, you're going to want to serve an espresso. You can either go to your local coffee shop, get a great cup of coffee to go with your slice of cake, or you can make some at home. If you have an Italian mocha like this, you can make it right here on the stove and enjoy your cup with a nice slice of apple cake. We hope you enjoyed this series. We hope you'll join us next time for our next Culinary Passport.